Having the auto login in place is great, but what about an auto log out? Because our token will expire. It has an expiry time of 1 hour once we get it. And therefore, right now, we have a bug in the app because this token will never expire, or the token will expire, but our application won't reflect that. We will automatically log the user in forever because we now have that snapshot here. And we never clear that snapshot. And sure, we could clear it when we log out, and we should do that, and we will do that. But it will never clear automatically. If the token expired after 1 hour, nothing changes in our application. And that, of course, is something we have to change. So first of all, in the auth service, we should make sure that since we store a snapshot upon logging in, we also clear that snapshot here in the logout function. Because if a user logs out, we certainly have to clear everything about that user in our application, and that includes the local storage. So here we should take our local storage, and we can simply call clear to clear all the data in the local storage. That, however, only makes sense if we have no other data in there. If we do have, then we clear that as well. So it's better if we don't clear all the data, but instead if we call remove item and we just remove that user data key and the data that's stored there. Now that's step number one, that we do actually clear the data when we log out. But now we also need to set a timer when the token is stored or when we first get a token so that we know when to invalidate that token at a later point of time. And for this, I'll add yet another method here, which I'll call auto logout. We have auto login for automatically retrieving user data and logging the user in. Now we need a method that sets a timer and manages a timer for automatically logging the user out. Auto logout should get the expiration duration here, which is a number, as an argument. So this will be the amount of milliseconds we have until the token is invalid, let's say. Of course, you could write this in a different logic, but I will go with milliseconds, which we get as an argument here. And then we can use set timeout in here to set that to that duration. And after that duration here, I want to call this logout. So the logout function we have here should be called automatically after our expiration duration. Now, the important thing is that when we do log out, we clear that timer. Because if we log out automatically, then it's no problem. Then the timer expired. But if we log out manually because this button is pressed, we also call logout, and then we still have that timer in the background, which calls logout again at a later point of time. Now, we don't want to do that. If a user logs out on his own, then the current session, so to say, the current lifetime of the token we have ends anyways, and therefore we should also clear that token expiration timer when we log out. Now, clearing that timer is not too hard. We simply store it in a property, which we can name token expiration timer, but you can name this however you want. And this will actually be of type any. And now let's store our timer down there. Set timeout returns a reference to that timer. So we can simply store that in token expiration timer. And in the logout function, we now just have to clear that timer. So in there, in logout, we should check if we do have an active timer, because maybe we don't. Maybe it expired anyways, then we can't clear it. But if we do have an active one, so if this is true-ish, then we should clear our timeout here and set this token expiration timer, or pass this token expiration timer into clear timeout. And this will, clear the token expiration timer. And thereafter reset token expiration timer back to null manually. So now we clear the timer when we log out, and we also set it here. Now, of course, we just have to make sure we do call auto logout, because currently we aren't doing that. And we need to call auto logout to make sure that this timer actually starts. Now, where do we need to call that? Basically, whenever we emit a new user to our application. So whenever we use our user subject. And that would be the case here in handle authentication and also in auto login. Now let's start with handle authentication. There we do emit our user. Now right after doing that, or right before doing that, doesn't matter, we should call auto logout and pass our current expiration time into that auto logout function. Now the current expiration time, of course, is our expires in value here, which is in seconds, times 1000. because we expect milliseconds in auto logout, since expires is in seconds, times 1000 gives us the amount in milliseconds. Now that's handle authentication. In auto login, it's a tiny bit more complex. Here, when we know that we do have a token and we therefore emit our user to the application, there we also want to call this auto logout. But here we now have to calculate the remaining time. We do have our token expiration date after all, and of course we can always find out what the current date is. So our expiration duration is basically this timestamp here. So the token expiration date wrapped into a date in milliseconds, which we get by calling getTime, minus the current timestamp, which we get with new date, in milliseconds with getTime. So future date, the token expiration in milliseconds, minus current date in milliseconds gives us the difference in milliseconds, and that is the duration we have until the token expires, which we should pass to auto logout. Therefore now this reloads, and we're logged in. Now if I call logout, we wipe our data and application, and we are logged out, of course. And now let's try if our timer works correctly. And to simulate this, I'll manually set this to 2000, only temporarily, so that this expires after 2 seconds, so that we can't really see if it works. Let's now log in. We see our user data snapshot here on the right, and now it's gone and we're redirected because now we logged out after 2 seconds. So auto logout seems to work. Let me now reverse this to the expiration duration, which we of course want to have here. We don't want to have that extremely short horizon here. Instead, let's log the expiration duration and see what we get there. If we do log in again, like this, then we see this here is 1 hour in milliseconds, and if I reload, you see now it's a shorter value. This comes from auto login, and that is the remaining duration we have. So this doesn't look too bad. This looks like it's working correctly. Still, there are things we should improve. For example, we can still visit the recipes route when we are not logged in. I can just type it here, and here I am. This is something we definitely want to prevent in our application.